Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Digital Excellence Pharma Academy. I trust you have enjoyed the wonderful presentation by Sanjeev Namangul on launching new products and embracing new technologies. So we are with Mr. Sanjeev Namangul once again to take on the questions. So thank you, Sanjeev, for being on our show. Our audience
Good
have
evening.
overall really appreciated what you have presented.
Good evening to you. I'm very happy to be here.
So great. So you have given a new paradigm, go to patient instead of the popular go to market. So tell us more about from your experience. I was really fascinated to listen to you that even 10 years ago, you had started something like, a nurse aid, a patient counselor, and call centers, all centered around the patients. So it was really nice to hear that. So can you tell us more about this patient center, go to patient rather than go to market?
Yeah, I think where we probably go psychologically wrong is in trying to say go to market is therefore we are turning this into a pure business story.
Right.
While what business we are in is basically getting patients better or
Yeah.
living or helping them to live longer. If
Yes.
that is our business, the fallout of that business is we there is some revenue accrued to it, but then we keep thinking the wrong way if we start saying go to market, and therefore we should always talk go to patients because that's where the customer is. And if we continue to say in every other industry that customer is king, then let's talk about the customer. So that's one reason. Secondly, what do we sell? We actually sell a clinical trial promise.
Right.
And a clinical trial promise assumes significance because that is the data we tell everyone that based on this data, the drug should be used.
Right.
But do we provide clinical trial settings to patients?
Right.
No. What we provide is that whatever you are, even taking medicines at what time. Yeah. So there is no real time follow up of that. So we have to go as closer to the clinical trial settings as possible
Right.
for getting better outcomes. And that's how real world outcomes will be better. So if that is the case, then we have to encourage our people to think that let them discuss these points more and more with the doctors so that it is not just about my drug is so and it has so and so. Say, okay, my drug therefore should be eaten with meals, without meals, empty stomach, this time, that time, morning to be taken at night or not? Does it have drug interactions? Does it have food interaction? All those things are equally important to continuously talk about because then the doctor will convey to the patient more effective. So, how do we create that? I'm giving you a very simple and mundane example, but it's about mind orientation, and therefore it is important to talk about go to patients. Secondly, whatever activity you do, and we call marketing activity, branding activity, this, that, and we think that branding means we should do it the FMCG way, and FMCG people are the standards. To me, FMCG people are not the standard. See, FMCG may you require maybe smartness and intelligence, but in our business, we require smartness, intelligence, and knowledge.
Knowledge.
In FMCG, you don't require knowledge.
Right.
Yeah. So clearly our marketers are far superior to FMCG marketers, but we always compare the wrong way. So if they are marketing something, then their whole thinking should be, does this, whatever activity am I doing, is it going to help the patient? All of marketing people keep thinking all the time is, does it help the doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how does my relationship with the doctor improve? But if I add the patient element and say go to patients, then probably it's a more complete discussion for marketing people also. And therefore, I said go to patients.
Right. Great. And I think we need more of such paradigms coming from business leaders. So it's much more credible when it comes from somebody who has done it. Your two case presentations were excellent examples of what you have achieved in this. You also said your product is a service, not treatment. That's something. Could you elaborate on that?
Oh, sure, sure, sure. See, ultimately, Does your product cure the patient or get the patient better? No, there are several things that you have to do. Na?
Right.
See, even if a diabetes medicine is approved by, let's say, a body like US FDA,
Yes.
what does it say? The approval says adjunct to exercise and XYZ behaviors, please add this drug for treatment. Why does it not say this drug is approved for treatment of diabetes? Yeah, why does it always have to say adjunct to nutrition and lifestyle changes?
Yes.
It does need not say it there. So why? Therefore, at the heart of everything is that we have to realize that my product is not alone in treatment. There is counseling involved. Patients have to take the medicine properly. They have to ensure that things happen in a way that are sequenced well. The feedback to doctor has to go at relevant times. I'll tell you another example where I would say that one experiment we did worked out well for us. In India, it is very funny. Hepatitis C is a funny disease. It's 1% prevalence everywhere in the country, excepting Punjab and Northeast, where it is 5%.
Hmm.
Now, different theories are espoused, whether it is drug needles that is causing it, or whether it is something else causing it. But the fact remains that it is 5% in Punjab, 5% in Northeast, and 1% everywhere else. So it's a very concentrated disease. So in Punjab, what we did some years back was we went with the treatment. Our drug was there. It was approved by state government. It was there in the formulary. So and everything else was there, but the ecosystem was not there.
Yes.
So what we did at that time is actually involved a microfinance player and said, come in, because they knew that if a person says, because many of times treatment depends, seeking behavior depends on not cash but cash flow. And we try and solve the cash problem by saying, I'll give you discount, I'll do this, I'll do that. But really it is a question of they might have cash, but they don't have cash flow, which is, so for a farmer, a harvest gives them cash. But then next few months, there is no cash flow. How do you help that? Or if a farmer says, look, I don't have any monthly income, but I have 7 cows. How do you translate that into milk and milk selling? And therefore, what is his income? And microfinance companies know, because they give lending to buy them a motorcycle or a tractor. So they are experts in it.
Right.
And the hepatitis C treatment was for 6 months. But if you get better, you're rid of the disease. And then why not pay it over 2 years period? Because then you have actually a reasonable guarantee that the patient is going to get better because of treatment. So we developed that program, but then we set up all the institution around it. That there is a nurse, the doctor is recording the patient, follow-up is done at the home, the finance company is approving the loan for 2 years, so that instead of 6 months, they pay over 2 years the treatment. And that allows them to take treatment well. And what happened there, because of all this and connecting all this with technology, and this is, I'm talking again about 8 years, 9 years back story. What happened? The hepatitis C treatment rates in Punjab went up by 8 times.
Wow.
8 times. And you actually did service to the patients there, because those patients got better and lived longer.
Right.
Imagine there was a farmer and a son, both had hepatitis C.
Right.
The family got rid of hepatitis C. And look at the long-term economic viability there.
Right.
So if you treat your product as service and understand the service mentality around it,
Right.
and what are you trying to change, then you would understand the treatment paradigm of the product. But that deep thinking has to go down until the last person, because my rep in Punjab also knew what we were doing because of that. And then my rep actually involved Gurudwaras to talk about it on Sundays. And in Gurudwaras on Sundays, in sermons, if people say, no, take your treatment, test yourself for hepatitis C. So that service is very different. So therefore, I always say that whenever you think about these areas, think about your product as service, and you will get to the right people at the right time.
So that's a great point. Again, you also mentioned the need for an ecosystem, because the patient is not just taking the pill; he is also, taking different kinds of foods. He has a different lifestyle in terms of exercise. So you talked about the need for having involvement of multiple stakeholders. And this again, the Punjab case is one more wonderful example. I don't think many would have heard about this, involving a microfinance company as a stakeholder. So how should pharma really look at it? Because on one side, our field force people have only one measure, of measuring their success or their performance. That is the number of pills or the number of units they have sold. And so, the usual rush at the end of the month for the sales closing data. But when you talk about these multiple stakeholders, the measurement also needs to change. How successful he has been in bringing the right stakeholders and involving the right stakeholders, and all the while keeping in mind how these stakeholders deliver different value to the patient, that in turn makes the life of the patient better. And like the case of the hepatitis C case, actually extends the life of the patient. So that, I think, is missing in our pharma. The medical rep or the marketing people largely see only the volumes as a measurement, but I think they need to see this as improving patient's life and helping him to live longer. How does one go about identifying, involving the different stakeholders to create an ecosystem?
I think, Anup, I agree with you wholeheartedly that this is the issue that our industry has. But solutions are there. See, ultimately, it is about belief behavior models. So if you believe in something, your behavior will change.
Right.
So how do you create those? And I'll give you a very simple example. And I've done this many times. I can give you numerous examples of these kinds. But tell me, if you tell a rep who is selling a diabetes product in the market, he's promoting that product to a doctor. He tells the doctor, doctor, you prescribe my medicine for 10 patients. Give me the details. Patient privacy and all, yes. Data privacy, yes. We can work around that. There are many solutions to work around that. So these 10 people, I'll go to their families. I'll educate the whole family on how this is being done. Yeah. Why, what kind of food should be taken? What is the right nutrition? When to exercise? And I'll monitor for the next 3 months. And after 3 months, I'll get the same patients back to you after their tests. And then if the rep learns that, okay, the data set doctor says is excellent and things, obviously it will become better. Right. So the results will prove. Yeah. Now you're changing the rep permanently. And now he or she knows the stakeholders well. Including he or she is going to the chemist and saying, ki, Baba, ye aayenge, tumko ek 5% discount de do na. Chemist is more than happy to do it, because if he sees a patient who's coming regularly and buying more things. Right. Right. So you create an ecosystem around the patient, around the rep to do these things. Don't we do it in oncology? Tell me which rep of oncology doesn't know what is happening in the family. Right. But have we trained that person, the rep that we have, in counseling techniques? Have we trained the person in understanding what kind of trauma management happens and how to deal with that trauma discussion when a family is broken the news? We don't invest as an industry. And then we complain, oh, this is happening, that is happening, and patient is doctor shopping and this and that. This is all because we make mistakes. So how do we create ecosystem is we have to start at the base level. Many times where we forget is that we want to change behavior at the top, tone at the top and all. But that's fancy. Yeah. What we need to start is at the ground level. How do we change some of these things? And there are many diseases where you can do this. I gave an example of diabetes, but imagine, I remember, I did not do it, but I learned how during the first time when Rabipur was launched, in the whole company, we saw how people were sent to rabies centers to understand what is hydrophobia and how patients actually suffer. Yeah. I have sent patients when I had launched very high-end injectables in antifungal treatment. I had sent people from the team, reps from the team. First of all, I got them trained at CMC Vellore and certified them that they're trained in antifungal fungal infections. So they had a certificate say that they're trained. Secondly, we put them on duty in ICUs where we knew the doctors to see actually how the patient suffers, and when your drug works, how the patient gets wheeled out and there is better life. You're saving life. This is a whole life-changing experience for the reps. But do we invest that much in our even at the lowest level to create an ecosystem? No. Stakeholder mapping, the another art that we need to teach all our marketers is stakeholder mapping. Do we really help them say, okay, now that you are wanting to launch this product, what's your stakeholder map? Most of the stakeholder map is what? Advisory board, these doctors, A class doctors, B class doctors, that's your stakeholder map. Rubbish. I would tell the product manager, look, carry your resignation always in the pocket, but because I will like to sign it any day. Yeah. We need to tell them how to create a stakeholder map, train them on a stakeholder map.
Right. So
look, when we launched a patented diabetes drug many years ago, which is a rage now in the country,
yes.
I remember we created a meeting between our global CEO and the Prime Minister because we knew patent attack could happen. For us, even the Prime Minister of the country was a stakeholder. Media was a stakeholder in trying to define what responsible pricing means. But you need to think through these stakeholder maps and help your marketers to develop those stakeholder maps. Once they do that, then their ecosystem understanding will.
Great. I think those are important insights, and going forward, people should be able to look at stakeholder mapping in addition to mapping the journey of the patient, mapping the journey of the physician. Now they have one more element to add to this, is to mapping the stakeholders into the marketing considerations. So you also shared something very interesting, that when you wanted to adopt this call center, because the challenge of increasing nurses for every increase in the number of patients, so you went to your CEO, and though he was initially hesitant, you were able to drive through the proposal. So two questions, how should the product manager approach his senior, whether it's a CEO or his BU head, when he has something that has not been tried before in the company? How should a product manager approach his BU head or his CEO? And more importantly, what are the suggestions you have, having been CEO for a long time, as to how should a CEO, BU head look at his marketing team members so that they come out with innovative solutions? And when they come out with solutions, what should be the kind of approach or response from the senior people?
Yeah, I think there are a few important characteristics that we should have. When we sit in the CEO chair, we should realize that we are in this chair because of the people around us, not the reverse way. They are not around because of me. So my job is to support them and help them and solve their problems, and not tell them what they should do. I must be guiding them. I must be supporting them. I must give them confidence. I must allow them to experiment. This is my job. So if I understand my role well, I will do it. I'll also encourage product managers to think in a very limited way, in the right sense. When I make this with a statement, I'm making it with a lot of, let's say, care. But I'll still say, seek forgiveness than permissions. Yeah. Product managers need to experiment.
Right.
Imagine if product managers come to me and say, you know what, we didn't tell you, but we did these 3 experiments, 2 failed, 1 succeeded, but this is our learning out of the failure, and this is how success will take us further. I would be glad and I would honor them. But they, in the fear of whether I should go and talk, itself finish half their enthusiasm. One. Secondly, when they come with the ideas, they should not come with the ideas, they should come with conviction for their ideas, not come with marrying for their idea.
Right.
Saying that ye to karna hai, nahi hoga to I will get depressed and something. They should go and say very plainly, look, we have done this thinking, we have done this. What we have not thought about are these areas. What I feel is risk is these areas. And I need advice here. Tell me which BU head or CEO will say, okay, I don't want to listen anymore. Because then it's a challenge thrown to the BU head and CEO to add value. You're sitting there in the chair. Now you have to add value to the person. But many times we go with so much of passion that if the CEO or BU doesn't agree, then is company mein to culture hi nahi hai. This is not innovative company. Because I'm not going with that notion that I also require help.
Right.
So that is also an orientation, but this orientation also is a training story. How do you train your marketing people or sales people to come with those ideas and help create that atmosphere that okay, they have their ideas, they need help, they need support, and there are people in the company who have gone senior because of experience, would have seen through some of these, would have failed somewhere. They will tell, okay, don't try it this way, try it this way, or I tried this, I failed here. These are the three learnings I had. It makes the idea better. So this is all about how do you build company atmosphere based on trying to encourage people to do what they need to do, but help them through the right path. So nobody is a be all end all. Yeah. I
Yes.
have never sat in a CEO. I have been a CEO for 14 years. I'm not sat in that chair ever thinking that I know everything. I always say that this is the last point where this man should be able to service everybody. He is responsible for servicing everybody. And unless there is a recording going on like this, my office door is never closed.
Right.
Why should my office door as a CEO remain always open? I have many meetings with open door because I know the issue is not that secretive and it's okay. So you have to create atmosphere,
Right.
and then people will not fear. And sometimes that the learning in an experiment would be much larger than whether the experiment succeeds or fails. I have known experiments where I know that this experiment is going to fail, but I've allowed people to do it because I knew the learning for that person would be massive. And I will have to defend a failure for some time. I'll have to take that business loss. I know how to defend that. Yeah, I'm not sitting in this chair without that understanding. But I allow that. And that works. You see a much better trained person. With that guts you should show.
That's really wonderful to hear that. That reminds me of something that's quoted in many management textbooks, that Thomas Watson Jr. Had a challenging time when one of his executives committed a blunder that costed the company some millions of dollars, and they said that what are you going to do now? You have to sack him. And Thomas Watson Jr. immediately said, that why would I want to lose a person who has learned $1 million lesson to competition? And I guess that's what made IBM such a great company, because they were willing to allow their people to make mistakes, and that's something uh, that everybody has to learn, allowing people to make mistakes, because if the comfort level is there that they can fail and learn from it and use that learning, I think people will be more willing to experiment rather than waiting for somebody else to succeed. Like you said yesterday, which successful strategy or tactic has not been adopted? So everybody is waiting for somebody else to make the mistake rather than be willing to make the mistake. So that's a very interesting
But
perspective.
you have to have the guts and walk the talk on saying that success is yours, failure is mine.
True, true, true. Yeah, that's true. Another important point that there's the digital buzz now. Practically, I don't think only in pharma, but in every sector, because of COVID and lockdown, the buzz about digital has only gone by several x up, and pharma is so no different. So, but you made a very important point that it's your strategy that's important, that you need to focus on, and not on the media. And digital is just a media. The more you are focused on strategy, the better use you will make of whatever the media, and you said that technology is really the big story that companies have to embrace rather than just looking at digital. So can you throw some more light on what you had to say?
Yeah, I think what happens is that people get caught up with the whole digital strategy or that euphemism or a phrase which has put everybody in mind that okay, am I digital enough? Yeah, look, you or Salil or Deep are doing wonderful work in trying to talk about this for the last 5 years. Last 5 6 years, you, at least you three I have seen, I've been everywhere talking about why a company can't have a digital strategy. And you would have seen more barriers than what I have seen, and
Right.
you would have seen more. But my feeling is because the word allows people to think that if they have convert a paper detail aid into a digital aid, they have implemented digital strategy. Yeah. So, and then that is a proof point that they carry, while forgetting what business they are in.
Right.
And therefore, I always tell people, focus on the entire strategy, focus on your thinking, focus on what needs to be done. Yeah. If you start focusing on that, then you will automatically realize that digital allows you to become far more efficient, far more relevant, and also build a sustainable model. This is not rocket science. This is inevitably learned. But that learning has to come from the fact that what is your right cause and what are you using it for. Once you know that, then that's fine. Then you will use digital medium properly. But otherwise, you will do gimmickry.
Right.
Yeah. Now, training should be digital. This is a statement thrown at everybody. Yeah. And then what do people do? Create apps or create, kind of games and say, okay, I've gone digital in training. Yeah. But the whole digital training has to go digital means I should have a beautiful e-library and e-training library. Maybe there will be videos, there will be talks, there could be interactive sessions, there could be books, there could be science journals, there could be everything which you can scan properly. Any time in the day a person wants to learn a little bit more, he or she should be able to decide at that moment of the time that, okay, I want to train myself in something, and I go to the e-library and learn it. Why should gimmickry replace what is really the system that you create? And once you create such an e-library and keep building it, imagine the kind of training that will happen.
Right.
And it can only happen if you are digital, because a trainer need not be available to you. I don't need a trainer anymore if I need that.
Yes.
But I don't think about my e-library thinking. I keep thinking about how do I gamify my training module. So that's why I say that employ more strategy rather than thinking digital, and then you will use digital as a medium rather than get overpowered by it. I gave you a very simple example.
Right.
But we don't do that.
Right. So we have taken quite a bit of your time. I know you're a busy man, but before I let you go, is that you said that launching new products is the best time for adopting technology because everything is new, so you are not bound to the past. Just a few insights for the young product managers on the key things that they should not miss out while launching a new product, whether using digital, not using digital, but the essential parts of the strategy that they should consider while launching a new product.
See, while you're launching a new product, you're actually going through the motions of whether, it's like birthing a child. They're going through a lot of emotion. And you're going through your, innovation side of your brain raised up, and you're possessed by it. And therefore, the chances of you trying to experiment more and building more ideas is more. Secondly, when you're launching a product, the entire chain in the management is wanting to hear from you, how are you launching the product? And the more innovation you bring to the table, the more hearing you will get. And if you show right returns for investment, people are willing to experiment and say, okay, go ahead and do it. It's fine. Budgets are available sometimes at launching times. While, you're always cringing for your budgets when you're not in the launch phase. When you're in cash cow phase, it's a different phase.
Right.
So the environment is very conducive. Now, if I don't use it as a young product manager, because if I use that experiment, and if I become even mildly successful, people will say, "Arey Baba, this is a very innovative product manager. Iska idea is acha hai." You often hear that.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah? And then talent spotting becomes so much easier. The person's value improves dramatically.
Right.
So it's good to experiment. And today, if you use technology more, people are going to listen to you more and more because they will think, "Sana, this is good. Yeah, this guy I don't have to teach."
Right.
Yeah. So it is the best time in your life where you can do something of this sort. And people miss that opportunity because they can experiment with everything. Look at, Kotler's piece, or you look at any other marketing strategy, yeah, I think it is very important why you should use the opportunity to do it and understand competition at that time much better, because then you want to be one up over the competition. So if you want to be one up over the competition, then you, if they are doing 10 things, you want to do 15 things and understand your competition better. Huh? That's another thing, that you have to understand your competition far, far better than what you understand in the regular sense. You know, I always tell people to read this old article called Marketing Myopia. And I would request all the young product managers to read it, digest it, and by heart it.
Right.
It's, I'm sure it's available on the net as an article. It is a 1970 article, but one of the finest things ever written on marketing. Just a 3-page article.
Right.
So you get a chance to do a lot more. Your learning is much more heightened. So don't miss that opportunity.
So great. Thank you so much, Sajeev Navangul, for sharing your insights, for taking this time. It will be very, very useful to our young brand managers. We have a lot of students as well who are doing the MBA in marketing, attending these programs. So we hope that at Medicine Man and in partnership with Credo Web, our efforts to engage the young minds creatively to look at the new things has been well served by your session and this live discussion. So thank you very much. Thank you to all our participants. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Anup, and please keep up the good work. You have been trying to change and transform minds for the last few years. And God bless you, because this is really a human service you are doing to people.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye bye.